Skip to 239. Let's see this.
This is a guy who does everything to separate and frighten people.
It was fine. I mean, it's a political speech.
He's still leading the polls on the Democratic side. It's tightening up a little bit, and
It's tightening up a lot, which is interesting.
but he's still beating you, according to the polls.
Well, I don't believe those polls. There's no way he beats me in Texas.
I don't believe stats and figures. Like, that just, oh, this just bothers me so much. Because this is borderline like science denialism, right? I don't like here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing. I could take that statement if some of the polls were showing it was like fairly even, and he could be like, well, some of these polls are biased. I think I'm still winning. I could be like, okay, but I don't think there's any like credible polls that show Trump is winning or like tied. I even like Fox News did a poll and showed this. Like,
Texas.
But even your own polls show you're behind right now, don't they?
No, my polls show that I'm winning everywhere.
no.
I don't know. We've all seen these reports that with 15 out of 17 states, you spent $2 million on a poll and you're behind in 15 out of 17 states.
Nobody showed you those polls because those polls don't exist, George. Those polls don't exist.
Thing, if the polls don't exist, then what are you talking about? What is he? Those polls don't exist. The polls you were just talking about? Did I like have a stroke and miss something here? It's like, oh, there's these polls that's showing this, and then like 10 seconds later, those polls don't exist. What? I don't know. I feel like either Trump or I had a stroke. Otherwise, this has been way too easy to.
But I just had a meeting with somebody that's a pollster, and I'm winning everywhere. So I don't know what you're talking
So you
about.
don't feel like you're behind right now. You're not.
No. Don't ask him, you don't feel like you're falling behind. Ask him, who is that pollster? You're not asking the right questions here. You ask for a name, you ask for what organization he's from, and you ask to see that poll. Because right now, he's making this claim that is pretty easily refutable. You push him on this. You're not asking the right... Who is this guy? Interview... You're not asking the right questions here.
Fighting from behind.
I haven't even started yet, but we're getting...
What do you mean you haven't even started yet? I'm sorry I'm pausing like every second here. Didn't he like announce his campaign, like actually file for like the funding and taxes and everything of it, like within the first day of his presidency? Like of when he actually like was inaugurated into office? Like, what do you mean you haven't even started? He's been since his first like year in office, he was running rallies. What president does that? What president runs rallies within his first year? This guy has never stopped running for 2020. He's been campaign funding this entire time.
Tremendous polls.
Those poll results so irritating to the president that a few seconds later, he has to go off the record to call his campaign manager.
Okay, so hold it off for a little while. Just call Brad on the phone. And I want to ask him that question, okay?
Days later, we would get the internal Trump polling data confirmed by the campaign. It showed the president far behind in key battleground states earlier this spring.
Surprise!
Back on the record, we arrive at his first stop of the day, an ethanol plant in Council Bluffs, Iowa.
What were you expecting?
It's an area that voted heavily for Trump.
I'm winning in all these polls that don't exist by people I won't name. And then finally, like days later, it's like, can we see that? Clear, and then it shows he's losing. How is this guy our president? How do people take him seriously? How does he still have supporters? Is this like a matter? Is this like a
Trump in the 2016 election and helped deliver the biggest margin for Republicans since Ronald Reagan.
Ladies and gentlemen, President Donald J. Trump.
Thank you very much, Iowa. We love Iowa. Thank you very much.
Do you?
Please sit down. Sit down. Otherwise, they'll say I got no standing ovations.
The president is using this speech to sell his economic strategy, but it's also a chance to hit back.
What do you mean what is his economic strategy? I seriously don't know what his economic strategy is. Is it just like trying to get him and his friends richer? I think that's just his economic strategy, is how he can make money. I don't think he actually cares about the American economy as long as it's still working for him.
At Joe Biden.
Sleepy Joe. He was someplace in Iowa today, and he said my name so many times that people couldn't stand it anymore. No, don't keep saying it.
Did anybody actually say that? Were there actually people in the audience that told him stop saying Trump's name and like put their hands over their ears? If they did, can we find a video or a photo of that? Please?
Sleepy guy. Okay.
4:46 p.m. We're back in the Beast.
The Beast.
These are the people that couldn't get in.
Headed to Air Force One for a second stop in Des Moines, a Republican Party fundraiser that evening.
Elections are about tomorrow night yesterday. When you go to voters over this next year, what is the big unfinished piece of business you're going to say, this is what we're going to get done?
So we almost had healthcare done. Healthcare is a disaster, Obamacare. But we've managed it much better than they managed it. So we've made it serviceable, but it's not great.
How? How have you made it better? You've defunded the hell out of it. That's the entire strategy. We made it better by removing like all the money from it. It's better now. Like what does this take? What do you like here? Okay. Here's the GOP strategy. We're going to get rid of Obamacare. Vote failed, right? Like, vote failed because of McCain and I think 2 other Republicans. Like, so they've just defunded the hell out of it, which by all means makes it worse. It's going to make it unpopular, and it'll make it easier to get rid of in the future. Now, Leon, right? I know you're asking me, Leon, that doesn't make any sense. Why would they try to remove healthcare from people? Because they want more money from insurance companies. And big pharmacy. And hospitals. Like, seriously, that's it. This is entirely it. Like, I swear, we can go look up some of these people that are, like, stalwart Republicans on this issue. Look at, like, how they're getting money and be like, they seem to be, like, against healthcare for all. I wonder if there's any correlation between how much money they're getting from big pharmaceutical companies and how they vote. I bet there is. Easy. That's how you, this is so terrible. You know what actually even makes it a little bit worse? This is like an American exclusive issue, right? This isn't like the rest of the world is like, oh, our government's trying to get rid of our healthcare. Like, no, they have healthcare established. It's like, as an American, I can't even make fun of Canadian people. Anytime, like, I try to, like, fight a Canadian person, they're just like, oh, you hurt my feelings. Now I'm going to go to the hospital and get it taken care of with my free health care. Like, that's even one of the worst things. The Republican Party is, like, nullifying my, like, chance to argue with anybody internationally. Because anytime I try to be like, America's better, they just be like, healthcare. Like, oh, I just lost. Our healthcare sucks. I just lose every argument because of it. That's it. And that's America.
We're going to produce phenomenal healthcare. And we already have the concept of the plan. And it'll be much better.
Do you? Sorry, I know I'm pausing like every 2 seconds here. Do you have a plan? Are you sure you have a plan? Because you actually tried to revoke Obamacare without a plan. You literally didn't have anything in place, and you tried to vote out people's access to healthcare. So when you say, we have a plan, but you're not telling anyone what the plan is, that's sketchy as all hell. I don't believe that. What is the argument? You go up to someone and be like, I have a baseball in my pocket. Most people would just be like, oh, can you show me? And they're like, no, I don't have to show you there's a baseball in my pocket. You should just believe me. It's such a ridiculous argument. And here's the other thing, though. People believe this. People absolutely believe this. Okay, and Joel, I see you there. Oh, you said Obamacare was blank terrible. I'll agree with that. Obamacare was not absolutely great. There were things they wanted to do with it, but because they had to be able to negotiate to get it passed at all, it didn't turn out as great as it was, right? But I still think we're better to like build upon what we have rather than just like pull out the rug from everyone and being like, oh, you have no like healthcare now, and all these people that don't have healthcare or don't have insurance, what happens to them? Like what happens? It costs me less to pay the fine for not having health insurance. Yeah, that's an absolutely stupid rule. The whole, like, fining you for not having health insurance, that's a stupid idea. I completely agree we should, like, get rid of that. But at the same time, we want to make sure that, like, people have access to healthcare. Yeah, especially when you get to things like insulin, which, like, the cost of insulin's been, like, skyrocketing over the past 20 months, or 20 years. It's ridiculous. Like certain things, like okay, things like insulin, right? Which I don't know how badly you need insulin, but I know a lot of people literally need insulin. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity. They will literally die without it. This shouldn't be like a debatable issue of, do we want to make sure these people have access to something they literally need to live? Like things that some people would literally die within like the next week without? This shouldn't be like a debatable issue. We should make sure these people can get like a hold of it. There are ways for like pharmaceutical and other like the medical industry companies to make money besides like hiking up the prices on necessary drugs. Type 1 diabetic, no insurance. From CVS, your Novolog is $1,100 for a month's worth. And then $1,350 for Levemir. Okay, so I don't have diabetes. I dated someone, but I don't recognize either of those. But yeah, so $2,450 a month. It's essentially $2,450 a month to live, right? Especially if you're type 1 diabetic, which means you're very limited on what you can do about it otherwise. You literally just have a life tax attached to you. That's essentially what it is. Like, hey, you need to be able to pay this money every month or you'll die. That's not okay. That's just not an okay thing to do. This shouldn't be like an issue where any of our politicians are fighting against each other on. We should be able to figure out a way to make sure everybody can get this. I either like lower prices, which means we're actually negotiating prices with drug companies. America doesn't do it, but the rest of the world does. I don't know why. Oh yeah. Because politicians like to make money from them. That's probably why, right? It's just ridiculous. Like this once again, this is like an American problem. We need to figure out ways that people can get these like literally necessary life-saving drugs and not have a $2,450 a month tax on them. Because well, actually, I want a politician to pick that up. I'm not copywriting this. I want to hear like I want to hear politicians use that term life tax when referring to things like insulin for diabetic persons. Because it's essentially either you pay for this or you will die. Say, so being a type 1, yeah, I'm one of those people that die within a week or put my family in crippling debt going to the hospital to save my life. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And that's ridiculous. Like, a life tax by corporations. Yep. That's how we get the libertarians on our side. We call it a life tax. And they're like, what? Taxes? And then they flock to our side. That's how the lefties win this. Easy. We're going to get the libertarian vote on it. But yeah, it shouldn't be like a debatable issue. Like, $2,450 a month. And there's other things there, right? We have like certain people work full time and they still struggle to like get enough money to like supply food for their family. Once again, food being something that you need to live. You wouldn't die without it as fast maybe, but you need it, right? And that's why we have government programs to help them, right? These people that can't afford like food, we have programs like food stamps to help them get food, right? So why is it when we go to insulin, like literally something you need to live. And we just like, oh, you can figure it out. You're good. You've got this. That's a lot. It's ridiculous. Sorry, I'm getting so worked up over this. It's upsetting and ridiculous. I feel like this wasn't even what we were talking about originally on here. Let's see. Charles said, this is terrifying to be honest. Sat in ICU dying for 4 days because of my diabetes. My girlfriend sat with me the whole time. My bill for those 4 days was something that was honestly outside my control. Yep. It was $88,000 for some godforsaken reason. Yep. So you just like pay the company $88,000 because you were born with diabetes. Like, and I understand. You could be super good, like you can test yourself and do everything you're supposed to, but being type 1 diabetic means sometimes you just can't regulate it. You can't. I had my girlfriend, we took a trip to Chicago. We went there for a psychology convention because she's a psychology major and she got to present there. It was cool. It was a fun time. But we were like downtown shopping in Chicago, and she like had like, I just kind of noticed she started like sweating really bad and she just looked out of focus. I asked her and she's like, oh, blood sugar problems. I'm like, okay, well, you carry some like juice in your purse? And she's like, no, I already went through that earlier today and we hadn't gotten a chance to like go back to the hotel. So I like freak out and being like, what can we do? And she's like, I'm gonna like pass out, like maybe like, yeah, like it was absolutely terrifying. And I'm like, okay, well, there was a CVS a few blocks away. Let me sprint there, and what can I get for you? So I ended up, like, getting an order from her, like, sprinting to the CVS and back. Like, which, by the way, apparently Chicago charges you money if you get plastic bags for stuff. I know that's an aside. I ended up paying the extra tax because I didn't know that. But yeah, and, like, sprinting back, and I found her, like, nearly passed out in a chair in the corner. Because she didn't want to, like, alert any of the workers there and, like, panic them over it. Luckily, she was okay, but yeah. We were in, like, a city we'd never been to before, and, like, she took care of herself really well. And it's just something you just can't control. Like, some days are going to be absolutely terrible for essentially no reason. It was horrifying. I was worried, like, while I was sprinting through downtown Chicago, like, jaywalking, trying to get, like, food and stuff back for her, I was gonna come back and she'd be, like, passed out and there'd be an ambulance there. Like, I don't know what to do in that situation. But these are situations people have to be in. That's why, like, people die because they're having to reuse needles. Or they die because they're trying to ration their insulin because they just can't get money from the government for it. These aren't issues that we should have, like, politicians fighting on. We should figure out ways to make sure that this is covered for everyone who needs it. And I think it's disgusting that some politicians won't do that. Now that I'm calmed down, I'm angry, but I'm like an angry calm. We'll go back to the video. I think I'm done with my rant here.
Okay, what the plan is? Yeah, well, we'll be announcing that in about 2 months. Maybe less.
Sorry. If you have a plan, you don't have to even give the details, but you could at least, like, give something so people know you actually have a plan and you're not just lying out your ass here. Just a small bone. That's it.
In preparation for this trip, we went out and talked to a lot of voters here in Iowa, supporters of yours. Right. And a lot of them say they voted for you. They're proud of you. They're going to vote for you again, most of them. And they wish you'd cut back on the tweets.
At times with
the tweets,
I wonder sometimes he's overreacts.
I think he could tone down some of his rhetoric and his tweets and so forth.
It's the tweets.
because he embarrasses himself.
It's just not necessary.
I have a very unfair press. It's a fake news. It's a corrupt news. If I don't use social media...
Okay. Okay. No. Okay. We're gonna do the fake news meme. Like, okay, Ellie, okay. I'll even, like, tunnel so I don't, like, rant too hard on this, right? His tweets, right? These aren't debatable, right? There is there is such evidence of this happening, right? No one's like, oh, fake news when you're literally tweeting. We have digital evidence of what you're saying and bringing out, right? This is like this is a chance for him to like make his voice heard, to actually like talk about things. And he's like, oh, well, news is treating me unfairly. I'm like, you're literally the one publishing this. This is you, right? You could argue, ABC or whatever is misconstruing stuff, but when we have digital evidence of what you're saying, also, Kopfefe, whatever the hell that was.
Yeah, I do not get the word out. I put it out, and then it goes onto your platform. I put one out this morning, and as soon as I pressed the button, they said, we have breaking news. Every network, every station, we have breaking news. They read my tweet. Why is that bad?
That I actually will agree with him on this, though. I find it so annoying when I go to like a pub or something, and at least American pubs typically have like TVs and stuff everywhere. Like Fox, CNN, all of them are always like breaking news. It doesn't matter what it is, they're always on a breaking news alert. Like, nothing. If everything is breaking news, then nothing is breaking news. Just calm down. Calm down, news agencies.
What they're talking about, though, is you calling people names, it's demeaning.
Well, you know what? I'll bet they do like it. They may tell you that, but I'll bet they like it,
What's your pitch to the swing voter on the fence?
Wait, did he just say, oh, people like me tweeting? They may say they don't, but they actually do. What? Does he actually believe this? Does he actually believe that people are just like flat out lying?
Safety, security, great economy, and I think I've done more than any other first-term president ever. I have a phony witch hunt, which is just a phony pile of stuff. Mueller comes out, there's no collusion, and essentially a ruling that no obstruction, and they keep going with it. You know what? People are angry about it.
I don't think that's what he found, but we don't have time for that. Now we'll talk about that
is
later.
what he found. Excuse me. He found no collusion, and he didn't find anything having to do with obstruction because they made a ruling based on his findings, and they said no obstruction.
He didn't examine collusion. He laid out evidence of obstruction.
Oh, are you trying to say now that there was collusion, even though he's...
Okay, he's not arguing with you on collusion. He's arguing with you on obstruction of justice. Weren't there like 11 charges of obstruction of justice brought there? But they won't actually pursue charges because he's a sitting president. They did say once he's not president, they can pursue charges if they choose to at the time. But that's it. He's trying to argue. He's strawmanning right now. That's exactly what he's doing. He's saying there was no collusion. Like, no, we're not talking about collusion. We're talking about obstruction of justice. He's doing this on purpose, right? I will give him credit for that. He's trying to derail this argument.
He said there is no collusion.
He didn't say there's no collusion.
He said no collusion.
He said he didn't look at
George,
collusion.
the report said no collusion.
Did you read the report?
Yes, I did, and you should read it too.
I read
Come on, let's go.
You
should
I
read
don't
it.
believe he read that.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Wow, that crowd is deep. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Is it deep?
Thank you, everybody.
That doesn't look too deep. Okay, one thing too, for people who don't know, because I go to like political rallies and stuff, like I've like worked on these things a little bit. Like they do certain things to like make the crowds appear bigger than possible. Right? Like whether it's like photo angle or certain events they'll like throw out a bunch of chairs, but then they don't have enough people for those chairs to fill. So they tell everyone, only sit in the first 3 rows. And then they'll like pull the chairs out, and then they'll like get a shot from like behind. So it looks like they're getting a shot from in the crowd, but really it's the back row. They just don't look at it. Other thing, you see a lot of politicians will announce their candidacy inside. There's a reason for that, right? Because if you announce your candidacy outside, you're going to have the people there, but then you just have this open space because you're outside, and it doesn't look like you have as many people supporting you. But if you do it inside where there's actually walls and you can get people like tightly packed, you can do that. Like I've heard of people actually making their announcement in rooms with a room capacity and specifically inviting more people to be over capacity. That way it looks filled. It looks filled, it looks hype, and this is all things they do to like make it look bigger than it actually is. All politicians do this, not just Trump.
And later, at that fundraiser, Trump polls the crowd on his 2020 campaign slogan.
We have to make a decision. Make America great again, or keep America great. You know who's here tonight? George Stephanopoulos, the great George Stephanopoulos. Where are you, George?
Does he think America is great right now?
He happens to be a nice guy.
So after about 10 hours, President Trump and I are back aboard Air Force One, heading back to the Capitol. Just one day in Iowa, with 510 more to go until Election Day.
510.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos.
We're literally counting how many days until we can get Trump out of office. Yup. We're doing it. See, that's how they did my advertisement photos for my catering service. Rented a small conference room at a hotel. Yeah, a lot of them will do it at hotels for that specific reason. 75-person capacity and made a bunch of food and invited like 100 people to come eat for free. Yep. It's just a really common trick. I think most people aren't aware of that. Maybe they are. But they'll do like little things like that to... Yeah. Other ones, what they'll do is they'll like line people up with a fence and stuff, and they'll have like on one side of the fence where they put the bus behind it for two reasons. Because first of all, you get the bus, which they're always like decorated with like a picture of them and everything, which looks nice. The other thing is you're literally funneling people between the fence and the bus. So it makes the people like crowd together and makes them look a lot bigger. Anytime you see like that done, that's exactly what's happening. Let's make America great, not again. It wasn't really ever, but let's make it great. Get some good healthcare, get some good education, be an icon of saving the planet and such. Yeah. One of the things I always thought like really interesting is Trump will say things like make America great again, but I've never heard him actually say when it was great. Right? Like at what point in our history was America great and are we trying to go back to? I've never actually heard him like explain that. The 1950s, just to be open like with this, asking that question is absolutely a trap. It's absolutely a trap. And it's one of those I can throw out to like any Republican that ever says like make America great again and be like, when was America great? Because you can always go back, like, some of them will say, you know, when we signed the Declaration of Independence. I'm like, oh, cool. So, like, when we, like, owned colored people. Like, oh, well, no, except for that. Like, oh, so we're just, like, ignoring, like, the people of color. But we were great otherwise. And then you get them on that. It's a really easy, like, kind of gotcha things. They usually say, like, the 50s. Yeah, so things like the 50s, you can go to things like, okay, well... you can look at healthcare. You can kind of go to polio because I think the vaccine actually came out and started getting distributed in the 50s. Polio sucks, right? That's a really easy go-to. There's still a lot of issues with regarding like American and minorities. We have like Cold War. I mean, America, you could pretty much always go to like, oh, when we were in this war, because hasn't America like always been in a war except for 4 total years since our independence? I think we've only ever had 4 years where we weren't actually at war with someone. It's an easy gotcha. Like, I'll even admit that. If you guys ever, like, hear me on stream, like, you can throw out an emote because you know exactly what I'm doing. I don't know a lot of those, like, gotchas because I don't like them, but that's such an easy one. A lot of times you can, like, ask people, like, really simple questions to just push them. Certain things like, you know, make America great again. Like, oh, well, when was America great? Or certain things like, I talked to a pollster who told me those are wrong. The guy should have been like, oh, what was his name? What organization was he, like, a part of? Where did he get his data? Like, these are all like really simple, straightforward questions that you can use to get them on this because we know he's lying, right? And that's actually like pretty, like, either, here's the thing, you ask like, oh, what pollster are we talking about? There's two things that happen. Either he gives up the name, which might make him sound credible, but it makes it really easy to follow up with the pollster and see if that's true or not, or he just doesn't give it to you, right? Which looks sketchy as all hell. Sometimes like little simple questions like that are just a win-win. Doesn't have to be anything complicated. I don't need like Destiny hypotheticals. You just ask a really basic question. I like the 1950s aesthetic, but oh boy, would I not want to live in that time. I think that's perfectly fair. Saying you enjoyed like the clothing styles and like music and stuff of like various time periods, I think is okay. But perpetually speaking, America has been getting better with time. That's why I don't like the whole like "Made America Great Again," or the people that are like, would you rather live 100 years in the future or 100 years in the past? Because to me, like, the further in the future we go, we should be getting better. Assuming we don't like pollute our planet to all hell and burn up in like 20 years. Yeah. Hopefully that doesn't happen.